Stacy and Richardson, they were two people who never should have met, yet somehow did. And once they did, the world shifted, softly but permanently, like sand under the tide. Stacy Miller was not from his world. She was a simple woman from a quiet town outside Chicago, someone who believed in ordinary dreams. She worked as an event florist, spending her days arranging roses and lilies for weddings she could never afford to have. She believed in love, though she had never quite found it. She was kind, but tired, hopeful, but scarred. Life had a way of taking from her gently, then pretending nothing had happened. Richardson Hale, on the other hand, was the sort of man the world couldn't stop talking about. Billionaire heir, corporate savior, the face of Hale Industries. His name was in magazines, whispered at cocktail parties, admired and envied in equal measure. But behind every headline, he was a man hollowed out by grief. He lost his mother young, the only person who had ever understood his quiet side. Then he lost his father to business wars and greed, years before the man's actual death. What remained was a lonely empire, full of wealth and echoes. And so when their paths crossed, it wasn't by chance, it was by contract. The rain fell hard that evening, beating against the glass walls of Hale Tower. Stacy stood in the lobby, clutching her umbrella like a weapon. She was drenched, nervous, and utterly out of place among the sleek suits and mirrored marble floors. She had been called to deliver flowers for the company's gala, nothing more, but when she arrived, a secretary intercepted her with a strange request. "Mr. Hale would like to see you in his office." She had laughed softly at first, thinking it was a mistake. "I'm just the florist," she'd said, but the secretary's eyes were cold. "He insists." Up in the 52nd floor, Richardson Hale was standing by the window, looking out at the storm. He didn't turn when she entered. His voice was low and deliberate. "You're Stacy Miller, aren't you? The one who handled the Walker wedding last spring?" "Yes," she said carefully. "Is there a problem with the flowers, sir?" "No problem." He turned then, tall, sharp in a dark suit, but with eyes that looked tired of pretending. "I have a proposition." And that was how it began. He needed a wife, not for love, not for comfort, not even for companionship. He needed a wife to secure his inheritance, the final clause in his late father's will. Unless Richardson married before his 35th birthday, control of Hale Industries would go to the board. The same board that had spent years scheming behind his back. And he had only 2 months left. "I'm not asking you to love me," he told her quietly. "Just marry me. On paper, for 1 year, you'll be well compensated." Stacy blinked, stunned. "You don't even know me." He smiled faintly, something brittle behind it. Maybe that's why it could work. She should have said no. Every instinct told her to walk away. But her mother was sick, heart disease, and the hospital bills were swallowing her whole. She had sold her car, her jewelry, even her dreams. Still, it wasn't enough. So when Richardson slid the contract across the table, her trembling hands took it. $1 billion man, a desperate woman, a marriage bound not by love, but by ink and obligation. They married quietly, in a courthouse with no guests, no music, no vows of the heart. Just signatures and silence. Richardson slipped a ring onto her finger, platinum, heavy, cold, and said, "It's just a year. After that, you'll be free." Stacy nodded, though a strange ache moved in her chest. She told herself it was relief, but it wasn't. That night, she moved into his penthouse, where the city glittered beneath them like a lie. They had separate rooms, separate lives. Yet each night, she would hear him pacing the halls, restless, haunted by memories he never spoke of. And she, too, began to feel haunted, not by ghosts, but by the emptiness between them. It happened by accident. She had been crying quietly in the kitchen one night, thinking about her mother's worsening condition, when he found her. For a moment, they just looked at each other, two strangers in an expensive kitchen filled with silence. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. She shook her head. "Nothing. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine." He didn't say anything. He just stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even tender in the way movies show. But it was real, the kind of embrace that holds pain instead of beauty. His hands were steady, hers were trembling. And for a long, fragile moment, the contract didn't matter. In his arms, she felt seen. In her arms, he felt human again. That night was the first time they didn't sleep alone. The days that followed blurred into something dangerous. The contract still existed, pages of rules, clauses, and timelines, but slowly, something warmer began to bloom between them. She would bring him coffee in the morning, teasing him about his tie. He would wait for her at the end of the day, asking about her flowers. Little things, quiet moments, like whispers of a life they weren't supposed to have. But love, once it starts breathing, cannot be silenced by signatures. Richardson began to smile again, rare, hesitant smiles that made her heart twist. And Stacy began to forget that their beginning had been built on paper. Yet beneath it all, the truth waited like a shadow. The tabloids found out. A photo of them leaving the penthouse together appeared on every gossip site the next morning. Billionaire's secret bride. The headlines screamed. The board demanded answers. Richardson stood before them, calm but defiant. "My marriage is real," he said, "and I will prove it." But they weren't satisfied. They wanted proof of affection, of loyalty, of a love that didn't exist, or so he thought. That night, he found Stacy sitting on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "They're saying I married you for convenience," he said quietly. She smiled sadly. "Didn't you?" He hesitated, maybe at first, and then, more softly, "But not anymore." Her heart stopped for a second, that fragile second when hope feels too heavy to hold. She wanted to believe him, but something in his eyes still looked trapped behind walls she couldn't reach. 2 months later, her mother's condition worsened. The hospital called while Stacy was at an event, and by the time she reached the ICU, it was too late. She sat by the hospital bed for hours, holding her mother's cold hand. Richardson arrived, breathless, guilt in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She didn't answer. She couldn't. All she could think of was how her mother had always dreamed of seeing her daughter truly happy, not rich, not secure, just loved. When the funeral ended, Stacy disappeared for 3 days. No calls, no trace. When she finally returned, her eyes were different, quiet, empty, resigned. "I think it's time we end the contract," she said. Richardson froze. "We still have months left. I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "This house, this silence, it's killing me." He tried to argue, but she walked away. And for the first time in his life, Richardson Hale, the man who owned half the city, realized he had no power over what mattered most. He found her one night at the small flower shop she'd gone back to working at. She was arranging white lilies, her fingers trembling. "Why are you here?" she asked, not looking up. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." "Don't," she said. "Don't say that. It's just guilt." "No." His voice broke for the first time. "It's love, Stacy. I didn't know it could feel like this, quiet, painful, honest. But it's love." She looked at him then, tears filling her eyes. "And what happens when the year ends?" He stepped closer, his breath shaking. "Then I'll ask you to stay. Without the contract." The moment hung between them, fragile, trembling, real. And for a second, she believed him. But life, as always, had its own plans. A week later, Richardson's car was hit on the freeway by a drunk driver. The news broke at dawn, Billionaire CEO in critical condition. Stacy rushed to the hospital, her heart a storm of panic and regret. When she saw him lying there, tubes, machines, silence, something inside her shattered. She sat beside him for days, refusing to leave. She read to him, talked to him, held his hand. And sometimes, she swore she felt his fingers twitch. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the room gold, his eyes opened. "You stayed," he whispered. "I told you I would," she said, her voice breaking. He smiled faintly, weak but real. "Then I guess, the contract's over." She laughed softly through tears. It was never about the contract. He lifted his hand and touched her face, slow, trembling, full of everything words could never say. And then, in that small, fragile moment, they finally kissed, not out of duty, but out of love. Recovery was slow, painful, but real. He walked again, worked again, smiled again, and she stayed, not as a wife by law, but as the woman who had taught him how to feel. Some days, they would sit on the same balcony where they had once stood as strangers, watching the city breathe beneath them. He would hold her hand, and she would rest her head on his shoulder. "I used to think love was a deal," he said one night. "Something to sign, seal, and control. And now?" she asked. "Now I think it's a choice," he said softly. "One we make every day, to stay, to hold, to forgive." She smiled, and for the first time in a long time, she believed in tomorrow. A year later, the tabloids announced another headline. Hale and Miller, quiet divorce. It was true, on paper, their marriage had ended. But life had changed them. The contract had expired. Love had not. Stacy moved back to her small town, reopening her flower shop. Richardson continued running Hale Industries, now quieter, humbler. Yet every Sunday, he drove 3 hours just to buy flowers, always lilies, always from her. And every time, she would hand them to him with that soft, knowing smile. Neither spoke of love, they didn't need to, it was there, silent, steadfast, unfinished. Some stories don't end with forever, some end with understanding, for in the end, theirs was not a tale of contracts or wealth. It was a reflection of love, sacrifice, pain, and the power of an embrace. The kind that saves you, even when it cannot keep you. And somewhere, in the quiet ache between what was and what could have been, Stacy and Richardson found something rarer than happiness. They found peace.